Do you have a hard time simply being? Do you notice yourself constantly reaching for something? Your phone, food, work, wine, scrolling, noise, or a show. Something to stimulate you, occupy you, or distract you. Now, maybe from the outside, your life looks fine, right? You're functioning, you're getting things done, you're showing up for people, but inside there's a constant restlessness, like your body doesn't know how to settle. For many people, quiet moments don't feel peaceful, they feel uncomfortable. So the second there's any space at all, you reach for something. Now, you may think this pattern stems from lack of discipline, presence, or lack of self-control, but what if it's something else entirely? Welcome to You're Not the Problem. On this channel, we talk about survival mode, nervous system healing, and how to create real change by working with the body instead of constantly fighting yourself. If these conversations resonate with you, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future videos. Now, today we're talking about why it can be so hard to simply be. And to understand that, we first need to understand a little bit about the nervous system, because the nervous system shapes your thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and reactions. So let me say first that your nervous system is incredibly intelligent, but its primary job is survival. It's not asking mainly, what would create the most meaningful long-term life? It's asking, how do I reduce discomfort? How do I get relief? How do I get through this moment? And once you understand that, your behaviors start to make a lot more sense. So let's go a little deeper with the nervous system to see why this is true. So think of your nervous system like a graduated cylinder. At the bottom in that 1 to 3 range, you feel safe and resourced. This is where we tend to have the greatest access to presence, connection, patience, flexibility, and our most expansive self. As activation builds into the 4 to 5 range, you may be mobilized in a healthy way. This is a great state for focus, adventure, engagement. But as you move up into the 6 or 7 range, you've got some survival activation, more of that fight or flight energy. It can look like anxiety, urgency, overthinking, restlessness, hyperproductivity, difficulty slowing down, feeling like you constantly need to be doing something. And if the activation keeps building into that 8 to 10 range, the nervous system can move into shut down or freeze, which often looks like exhaustion, procrastination, avoidance, numbness, low motivation, brain fog, kind of that difficulty initiating tasks or feeling disconnected from yourself or your life. Now, ideally, we would move through these states fluidly in response to life circumstances, right? It's only problematic when we get stuck in highly activated states for long periods of time. The body starts adapting to that survival mode. And when that happens, one of the things we notice is that quiet or slowing down is uncomfortable. The body becomes so accustomed to stimulation, pressure, movement, vigilance, distraction, and productivity that ordinary moments don't feel neutral, they feel vulnerable. And the more activated the nervous system becomes, the harder it is to settle into the present moment. The body starts sending the messages. We need relief. We need discharge. We need something to shift this state. We need to be dealing with the activation that's inside. And that's where the reaching often begins. The phone, the scrolling, the multitasking, the snacks, the wine, the shopping, the productivity, the constant need to be doing something. These behaviors are often attempts to work with the activation that's building inside the system and create some form of relief. You can also think about this like a compressed spring, right? The more that spring gets pushed down, the more potential energy gets stored inside it. And eventually, that energy has to go somewhere. Our human nervous systems work similarly. When we carry large amounts of activation, the body looks for ways to discharge it. So understanding this really helps us look at our behaviors with more compassion. We don't judge the spring for releasing its energy, and we don't need to judge ourselves either. So I'll give you some examples of what this can look like in real life. The first is a woman, I'll call her Ava. Ava is extremely successful, executive level, highly productive, highly disciplined. And from the outside, most people would say, oh yeah, she has her life together, right? She works out on a consistent basis. She keeps a very strict schedule. She gets an enormous amount done. And a lot of those traits have served her quite well. But lately, she's realized there's no space in her life where she can simply be a human. Everything has structure, purpose, optimization. The system feels a lot tighter now, more rigid. And she also noticed that if something disrupts her routine or her plan, like an injury that stopped her from working out, or if one of her children interrupts her plans, her activation would spike dramatically. And at one point, she told me, I don't really know how to rest inside my life. I have to be doing something every minute of the day. And I think this is important to understand because survival adaptations sometimes look very successful from the outside. In fact, the world often rewards nervous system patterns like productivity, control, and structure, right? And then there's Lorraine. So Lorraine was recently sitting at her child's baseball game and realized how uncomfortable she was simply sitting there. She'd forgotten her phone in the car, and it was quite a walk to go and get it. She said she felt like she was going crazy not to have something to distract her. It was an eye-opening experience. And as she sat there, terribly uncomfortable, she realized that there never really is a moment where she isn't doing something to distract herself. She even admitted that she often checked emails while driving because driving without any other stimulation felt uncomfortable. What's wrong with me? She asked. But as we talked, I encouraged her not to judge herself. What she was noticing wasn't a character flaw. It was a full nervous system. And the fuller her cylinder became, the harder it became to focus. Tasks that should take 20 minutes for her started to take 2 hours. She felt overstimulated and scattered at the same time. And this was just further evidence that her nervous system was tipping into overwhelm, too much activation. And sometimes when our nervous system cylinder is so full, the survival self really starts to take over. And that self is focused on protection and preservation, not deep presence and connection. Survival brain is focused on managing the activation in our systems rather than fully inhabiting life. Now, as a final example is Jerry. Jerry had experienced one painful thing after another throughout his life. He had adoption trauma, emotionally harsh caregivers, failed relationships, failed businesses, years of loneliness, and his nervous system learned to navigate all of this through avoidance and escape. A couple of drinks most nights, cannabis gummies, constant scrolling, endless entertainment, trip planning, and everything else felt overwhelming. Finances felt overwhelming. Emails felt overwhelming. Responsibilities, even simple things like movement or going to the dry cleaner, felt too difficult to initiate. Then he berates himself because he can't understand why he still can't get his life together despite years of therapy, self-help books, motivation strategies, and trying harder. But the important thing is this. Jerry is not dumb. He's not lazy. He's not weak. He wants to feel healthier. He wants consistency. He wants his life to run and work better. But his nervous system has spent years learning relief is safer than engagement. And this is where compassion matters deeply because most of us judge ourselves for struggling with consistency without understanding that consistency requires the ability to stay present in discomfort. Through boredom, in uncertainty and frustration and emotional activation, and through slowness. And if the nervous system has learned to escape those states quickly, long-term change becomes very difficult. Over time, we slowly stop feeling fully like we're fully inhabiting our own lives. Moments become filled constantly, right? Presence disappears. And many of us don't realize how uncomfortable the ordinary moments have become. Sitting quietly, eating without distraction, driving without stimulation, waiting in line. The nervous system starts treating neutral moments like something that needs escaping. And that's painful because so much of life exists inside ordinary moments. So what do we do with all of this? The answer is not forcing yourself into overwhelming stillness and trying to white-knuckle presence. We start gently by healing the nervous system slowly and learning that the present can become safer. Maybe that's 30 seconds in the morning where you simply notice your body, checking in and asking the question, what's there? At first, you may notice almost nothing, and that's okay. But over time, you may begin noticing tension, pressure, sadness, warmth, restlessness, fatigue, a softness. The goal is to develop a relationship with what's there. It's to try on a moment of presence, even if it's uncomfortable, and invite yourself to be inside it just a little bit. learning how to stay with yourself just a little longer before automatically escaping the moment. Maybe you drink your coffee for 1 minute without reaching for your phone. Maybe you stand outside for 30 seconds and just notice the air. Or maybe you drive quietly for a few minutes before turning something on. These tiny moments matter because if the nervous system has spent years learning that stillness feels uncomfortable or unsafe, we don't change that through force. We change it through gentle, repeated experiences of being present without escaping it. Now, there's much more to understand about how to work with your system, but what I really want you to take away from this video is this. You're not the problem. Many people have spent years surviving chronic activation and slowly losing access to presence and rest and softness without understanding why. This work is about helping the body learn that ordinary moments don't need to be escaped. If you want to go deeper, you can explore the free resources at laurimantry.com and my book, You're Not the Problem. If this conversation felt meaningful, subscribe to the channel and share this video with someone who might need to be reminded that they're not the problem. I'll see you soon.